Hi, I'm Random Trashy, welcome to the channel. So I get asked quite a lot around how comms are set up, especially with milsims, especially if you have a net to zero and you have a net between your team. I'm going to go over the absolute basics today. We're not going to be talking about advanced radio stuff. If it is something you guys want to get into, please make sure you leave a comment in the box below and we can go through PTTID, CTCSS and all those type of encryptions and how to set your channels up and all that sort of stuff. Right now we're going to go through the absolute basics. So the most common radio setup, you're going to have your radio. I use a Baofeng UV5R. You're going to have a PTT, that's a push to talk, that is the button that you depress when you're about to communicate. And you have some form of headset that normally includes an earpiece or multiple earpieces and a microphone. These type of headsets, ZTAC, Contact, Peltor, are very common. Some of them have active sound cancelling, some of them have a mic built into the headset, some of them have a boom mic. Really comes down to preference and also on what you want to spend, but these are the most common. My in-ear Raycals have bone conducting and that's how the microphone works, and they have active sound cancelling and all that sort of thing. It's a very complicated setup and you can spend a fortune. You can also get some really simple stuff that works very well as well. So the way that my radio works, if you did want to work on a dual channel or a dual channel setup, and why that would be important, at all times you need to have communications with zero and you also have communications with your team. You can set that up in a manner of ways. One way would be to have the dual comms set up on the radio. So A would be to zero, B would be to your team, and you have your channel, for example, 444777 or 444888. And when on channel A, you would be communicating with zero. When you're on channel B, you're going to be communicating with your team. This is one way of setting this up. It can work extremely well. The only issue with the Baofengs is it jumps between the channels as to where it's receiving information. So if it's receiving information from zero, it will jump to channel zero, and if you then want to communicate with your team, you'll have to manually go to the radio, press B, transfer over to the B, and then communicate with your team, which means it can be quite complicated. Another way of setting this up, and this is what is most common with Sterling, is you get given a radio that allows you to communicate just with zero. So we're just going to draw out a quick radio here, bear with me, and you can set this up in a variety of different ways. You can, dependent on the equipment that you have, run a cable from this into your comms. If you have one with two PTT buttons, and one would be allocated to the team and one would be allocated to zero. Not everyone has this set up, so one thing that you can do is just run the handset on its own. One thing to be very clear of when you are speaking to zero, and this is when it just shows how important it is to have a really solid RO and someone that can multitask and be able to listen and pass off information really well, is that zero may be speaking to 6, 7, 8 different teams. And also your RO is going to have to listen to your entire team as well with comms. So what we have here is a basic comm setup for your RO within the team. That is communications with zero, communications with the team. Now that can be done again with a number of different ways, from one radio with a dual channel setup or from two individual radios. What you do need to be aware of is that when you are communicating with zero, zero is also having to communicate with all of these other teams on this network. So your RO will have messages coming through the radio constantly for different teams. And because of that, he has to be very aware of what's being said to you as a unit, and he also has to be aware of what the other units are saying, because that is going to be beneficial for you and your team when you're out on the ground, knowing where these other teams are. So sometimes just giving the RO a minute or being able to get them stacked into a corner, get some security down while he's passing off messages. You may speak to zero, you may request something, but you might not get the information back straight away. So if you're running towards the building but you're not sure if it's got friendlies in it, the last thing you want to do is stack up on the door and then have to speak to zero. So you want to be thinking ahead, you want to be planning your moves ahead, confirming them with zero, making sure that zero is good with that and that they're not going to give you any intel that's going to be like, you know, you've got friendlies in there or we've got enemies in there, we don't want to raid that building yet, it's under surveillance or anything like that. You want to make sure that your communications with zero is very clean, very quick, and that you're not on this network hogging the channel for the other network, for the other call signs, and keep that communication down as soon as, you know, to an absolute minimum. The communications within your team obviously is going to be your primary communications. Not everyone has to have contact with Zero. Normally it is only our RO that has the communications through to Zero, and they relay it on any important messages, any important intel. So communication within your team, within your complete side of an event is extremely important. This is a basic way of doing it. Hopefully that's covered off enough information on this. If you do want to go into some more information on the radios, the setup, how to set up the channels, how to set up TCS, something like that. It's the transmit and receive encryption that you can have over a channel to stop you overlapping with other teams. There's a ton of stuff on these radios that you can mess with, way more advanced than I can go into, but I can take you through the stuff that I know if you are interested in that. Again, this is pretty much how it's going to work. If you are at a milsim, you are going to have some communications with Zero, and ideally you really want communications between your team as well. Any questions, comments, feedback, anything like that, please make sure you put a comment in the box below. If you want to catch up on the rest of the milsim series, you can do that by clicking on the little white eye in the top right hand corner. Tons of information on the channel on milsim, lots and lots of product reviews. If you do want to go and check that out, if you want to hit that subscribe, you can do that in the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you all soon.